My boyfriend, 24-year-old male, and I, 23-year-old female, are currently in discussions about our finances, and it has been a bit challenging. We want to sort everything out before we get married, as we have been together for approximately 4.5 years. I grew up in a family where my parents maintained separate bank accounts, but contributed equally to household expenses, etc. They each managed their own money, but worked together to run the household as a team. As a result, they have never fought about money and, in my opinion, have a great relationship. On the other hand, my boyfriend comes from a family where his dad worked a lot and his mom was a stay-at-home mom. They had joint funds for obvious reasons, but I have personally witnessed them arguing about money many times. During the 4 years that my boyfriend and I have been together, now his mom works on occasion, but his dad is the primary breadwinner. My boyfriend and I are both pursuing master's degrees, and I will also be doing a PhD, so both of our incomes should be quite stable. He will have a full-time job before me, but I am fortunate enough to have saved some money through scholarships for either a house down payment, a car, etc. So I am technically in a better financial situation than he is at this point, which may be increasing my hesitancy. Naturally, we have different perspectives on how we should handle our finances. I have witnessed many situations where combining money leads to one person controlling the account, and I do not want that. Personally, I would prefer if we established a budget for shared expenses, but had our own accounts for investments and personal spending. This way, we would not have to worry about each other's purchases as long as we stick to the budget. However, my boyfriend wants us to have combined accounts because he sees it as more of a team effort, even though the total amount of money would be the same either way. We have had multiple discussions so far and are trying to find a compromise. However, I'm afraid that even if we completely combine our finances, he might become extremely frugal in the future, as he used to be in the past, although he has become more relaxed since we have been together, and get upset with me for purchasing something that we can definitely afford. So, I am asking for your advice, Reddit. I apologize if I have left out important details. Please let me know if you need more information. Based on your experiences, what has worked for you? Edit. Alright, I have received numerous comments suggesting that my boyfriend is financially hurtful. I personally do not believe this to be true. He has always allowed me to make my own decisions regarding my finances. I feel like a lot of people on Reddit immediately jump to abusive breakup mode, when it is simply a disagreement that we are trying to work through together. Furthermore, we have discussed a prenup, but I have heard that they are not legally binding. Also, he does not suffer from crippling financial anxiety. Thank you for all the helpful comments regarding this situation. Update. We had another discussion this morning, and he agreed to have a budget to which we both contribute equally. We will also have a shared safety net and shared savings for certain agreed-upon expenses, but the rest will remain in our personal accounts. Thank you, everyone, for your assistance. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Here in Australia, a lot of people swear by a guy called Scott Pape, the Barefoot Investor. He's got a book that walks you through all the steps of setting up a financial life as a married couple. Really simple, very popular. He says it's not so much whether you keep it separate or combined, but making sure you frequently talk and agree on what you are doing with your money. He recommends weekly financial date nights, where you just talk about money, have a glass of wine, enjoy time together, dream of the future, and plan out how you're going to pay for it. Comment 2. And please also don't forget in all of this that anxiety disorders are usually treated by getting psychological help, not by accommodating to them by all means. I would not at all even consider combining finances with somebody who has a psychological disorder regarding finances. Keep them split and let him go to therapy. Don't marry him without therapy, even when your finances are split. There are combined spendings which will always become an issue if the anxiety is not being treated. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around for more updates. So much has happened since the last post. Just when we thought we had it all figured out with the budget and separate accounts, life threw us a curveball. My boyfriend's dad lost his job. It was sudden and it shook everyone. His family had always been the type where his dad was the provider, and now they were scrambling to adjust. My boyfriend was stressed, trying to help his parents navigate this new reality. Meanwhile, my parents, who've always been the independent financial duo, started having their own issues. My mom found out my dad had made some bad investments without telling her. It was a mess. They were arguing a lot, and it was weird seeing them like that because they never fought about money before. Back to us, my boyfriend started talking about how we needed to save more, just in case something like what happened to his dad happened to us. I got it, but it felt like he was slipping back into his old frugal ways. It made me nervous because I didn't want to live like we were just one step away from disaster. We were both busy with our master's degrees, and I was prepping for my PhD. The tension was high, and our conversations about money started to feel like minefields. I was saving for my scholarships, but he was getting more and more anxious about the future. Then, out of nowhere, my boyfriend got a job offer. It was a good one, with a decent salary. We were both relieved because it felt like a bit of security, but then he dropped the bomb. He wanted to take a portion of my savings, the money I had set aside for our future house or a car, and invest it in some startup his friend was launching. I was shocked. That money was mine, saved from my hard work and scholarships. I didn't want to just hand it over for some risky investment. We argued, and it was the first time I really felt like we were on different pages when it came to our financial future. I talked to my parents about it, looking for advice. My mom, still upset about my dad's secret investments, told me to stand my ground. My dad, on the other hand, thought it was a good opportunity. I was torn. In the end, I decided not to invest my savings. My boyfriend was disappointed, and it caused a rift between us. He invested his money and some of his parents' money in the startup. I was worried, but I hoped for the best. Then, just last week, the startup took off. It was a success, and suddenly, my boyfriend's investment tripled. He was ecstatic, and his parents were relieved. It seemed like everything was falling into place for him. But then, he sat me down for a talk. With his new financial success, he wanted to revisit our financial arrangement. He now felt that since he had more money, he should have more say in our finances. I couldn't believe it. After all our discussions and agreements, he was changing the game. I felt betrayed. It wasn't about the money. It was about the trust and the partnership we had agreed upon. We had a huge fight, and for the first time, I questioned our future together. The next day, he apologized. He said he got carried away with the success and forgot about the team we were supposed to be. He suggested using some of his earnings to put a down payment on a house, one that we would choose together. It was a peace offering, and I accepted it. We're now house hunting, and things are looking up. But that argument left a mark. I realized that money could change people, and I had to be prepared for that. We're moving forward, but I'm keeping my eyes open and making sure we stick to the principles we set for our financial future. Thanks for reading. Am I the idiot for giving my husband another chance? After he admitted to flirting with clients because our marriage lost its spark. My husband, 33-year-old male, and I, 32-year-old female, have been married for almost 3 years and together for 10. We've always been friends, had intimacy frequently, sometimes every day, go on tons of dates, financially stable, have a home and great careers, and enjoy spending time with each other. We do not have any children. His career is in the health field and a little bit out of the box. And the fact that his clients are men and women looking to work on themselves, their bodies, and a lot of the women are gorgeous. I, too, got into fitness when I met him because it was his passion and I wanted to share his hobbies. I am not tooting my own horn, but I am in great shape and take wonderful care of myself and am not bad looking, setting the stage, okay? He is also good looking. Before we got married, I had a hunch that something was off. I went through his phone and found he was talking very inappropriately with one of his clients. He had even taken her out to dinner when I was on a recent business trip. We had just moved in together for the first time in our relationship. Was in college prior then, 2 years of long distance. She was gorgeous too. It absolutely crushed me. I immediately kicked him out after confronting him. And we split for a little less than 6 months. A lot of that time was him begging to get back together. At the 6-month mark, we reconciled, and a year later, he proposed. He understood why I was hurt and committed to never doing it again. Fast forward to 6 years later, now. Just caught him talking inappropriately with another female client. I had another gut feeling. Before we got married, I worked through my trauma from the first time and stopped incessantly checking his phone. The constant checking his phone made me crazy, and I knew it had to stop. Throughout our marriage, I have seen some flirty texts with clients, but nothing serious, and I had even confronted him about it. He had said that they were just jokes and nothing serious, and I moved on. The texts recently with his clients were crippling, though. He was suggesting they should get drinks and work out together. His work is virtual, so working out together is unnecessary. Told her she was the hottest girl he knew, and exchanged some intimacy texts as well, and added each other on Snapchat. We haven't used Snapchat since college. When I confronted him, he said he did it because he doesn't feel a spark with me anymore. Intimacy in recent months has slowed down to about once a week, due to what he says is his intimacy drive declining, not from my side. I always want it, but have never really had to initiate. He always has. I kind of went with the flow of once a week, even though I wanted more, but initiating all the time makes me feel unwanted in a sense, because he doesn't initiate. So now I'm at a crossroads. I feel like our relationship was as close to perfect as perfect gets. But I cannot give him the feeling of novelty and excitement that these females are giving him. The worst part is I truly don't think he would sleep with them. I think he just loves the attention and conquering women that other men find extremely attractive. He hears from his male clients how hot these girls are, and that makes them attractive. Do I stay? He agreed to counseling, but a part of me feels like the trust is gone, and even if we stay together, I will be constantly looking over my shoulder. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. So he cheated, and you forgave him, and then he flirted, and you ignored it, and now he's cheating and blaming you, and you feel like he wouldn't have actually slept with them. Girl, you are lying to yourself. He is not and has never been a good partner to you, and you're only further deluding yourself if you think those were the only times. Not only should you divorce him, but you should get a full STI panel. Comment 2. And can you just say he's a personal trainer? With all this talk about how people look and calling a personal trainer anything other than a personal trainer, you sound superficial. And frankly, I'd expect nothing less than what you've described from superficial people, especially the cesspool of personality disorders associated with the fitness industry. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking around for this update. So, the past few days have been interesting to say the least. After I found those texts on my husband's phone, I thought long and hard about what to do next. I decided to give counseling a shot, but I also needed some space to think. So I went to stay with my sister for a bit. While I was there, I got a call from a mutual friend. Apparently, my husband had been seen out with the same client he'd been texting. They were at a local bar, and it didn't look like a professional meeting. My heart sank. I felt like I was back at square one, reliving the same nightmare from years ago. I confronted him over the phone, and he didn't deny it. He said they were just talking, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he was lying. It was like a punch in the gut. I had trusted him, and here we were again. But this time, I wasn't just going to sit back and accept it. I decided to take control of the situation. I went back home and told him we needed to have a serious talk. I laid it all out on the table. My feelings, my suspicion, and my unwillingness to be made a fool of. He broke down, admitting that he was scared of how routine our life had become, and that he was seeking excitement elsewhere. He swore it was a mistake and that he'd do anything to fix it. We went to our first counseling session, and it was intense. We dug up a lot of old issues, things we thought we had moved past. The counselor suggested we try a trial separation to see if some time apart might help us figure things out. It was a tough pill to swallow, but I agreed. During our time apart, I did a lot of soul searching. I realized that I had been ignoring my own needs in the relationship, always trying to be the perfect wife. I started to reconnect with old friends, picked up some hobbies I had let go, and even began a new fitness challenge. It was liberating, in a way, to focus on myself. Meanwhile, my husband was doing his own work. He started individual therapy to address his need for validation and his fear of commitment. He also took a step back from his work, passing on some clients to colleagues to avoid any further temptation. After 3 weeks, we met up again. It was awkward at first, but we talked for hours. He told me about his therapy, how he was learning to find validation within himself rather than from others. I shared my newfound sense of independence and how I didn't want to lose that. We decided to give our marriage another shot, but with some new rules in place. We agreed to more open communication, regular check-ins with our counselor, and a commitment to keep working on ourselves, both together and individually. It's not a fairy tale ending. There's still a lot of work to do, and the trust isn't fully restored, but we're both willing to try, and that's a start. Thanks for reading. Am I the idiot for giving my husband a second chance? After his affair and our emotional disconnect, I, a 28-year-old female, have been with my husband, a 34-year-old male, for almost 10 years. He was my first everything, and he's a great person. He loves me. He would never abuse or cheat on me, and he's my very best friend. We have similar hobbies and enjoy spending time together. However, I've always felt like something was missing. I think my husband is a good-looking man, but I don't think I've ever personally felt physically attracted to him. When we first started dating, I was fresh out of high school and didn't really know anything about physical intimacy. I thought it was just something that would happen over time. As the years passed, I've realized my husband and I don't have much of a physical connection or chemistry, both in the bedroom and out of the bedroom. Our bedroom has always been, by definition, a dead bedroom, and hasn't improved much, even with efforts from both sides. Over the past couple of years, I've had some major events happen to people I care about, and I had a lot of trouble going through that. My husband isn't the most empathetic person and doesn't know how to handle those situations, so he shuts down. I felt really alone in those times and had to get through it on my own, but it made me realize we weren't really on the same wavelength emotionally. We've discussed this, and it's not something that I blame him for. We're just extremely different. Lastly, I feel as if I haven't grown as much as I would have liked during our relationship as a person. Early on, before our relationship started, I was getting to a place where I was becoming more confident and independent. However, looking back, I realized that growth stopped, and I might have regressed. For example, my husband is, by nature, a very gregarious and sociable person. Very often, I'll start telling stories to others, and he'll usually talk over me and take over the story, driving the conversation instead. I usually dismissed it as he's better at telling stories than me, but in hindsight, this really affected my confidence in myself. This and interrupting me in general are things I bring up as a concern to him often, but it's never changed, since it's just who he is as a person. I've realized that I'm not entirely happy in my marriage with him, but there are good moments where I'm not completely unhappy. He still is my best friend, we get along well on a daily basis, and he does treat me well, which are all things I'm grateful for. I'm very much afraid of falling victim to the grass is greener syndrome, so I don't know if these are things that I should take seriously, and I don't want to hurt him. Sorry for the long post. I welcome any and all advice. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. The grass is greener where people water it, but it's both partners that should be watering it. And it sounds like your husband is not watering your grass in a few very important spots: your physical pleasure, emotional support, and your significance. I think your concerns are absolutely valid. I also think this could definitely improve if you both decide to work on it. Comment 2. I feel like the most change in me happened between 18 and 25, learning what I wanted, how to live on my own. I would not have made the same choice in a husband at those 2 points. I also tried dating a good man, whom I had no chemistry with. I couldn't make it work. Maybe the grass was greener, but I wasn't being fair to him regardless. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around after my last update. So, things took a turn. Remember how I said my husband and I were on different wavelengths emotionally? Well, it's gotten worse. Just last week, my sister, who's been my rock, got laid off. I was devastated for her. I needed someone to talk to, but when I tried to open up to my husband, he just shrugged and said, "She'll find something else." I couldn't believe it. I felt so alone, and it was like he didn't even care. But that's not even the half of it. A few days later, I was cleaning out our spare room and found a box I'd never seen before. Inside, there were letters from a woman I didn't know. They were love letters, and they were to my husband. My heart sank. I confronted him, and he confessed. He'd had an affair early in our marriage. It was a short fling, he said, and meant nothing. He ended it and never told me because he didn't want to lose me. I was torn. This was the man I'd spent nearly a decade with, my best friend. But he'd lied to me, and that trust we had was shattered. I didn't know what to do. I felt betrayed, but at the same time, I wondered if this was why our physical connection had always been lacking. Was it because he'd been with someone else? I needed space to think, so I went to stay with my sister. She was dealing with her own problems, but she welcomed me with open arms. We spent nights talking about everything. It was during these talks that I realized how much I'd changed. I wasn't the confident, independent woman I used to be. I'd become someone who was okay with being talked over and dismissed. Then, my husband did something unexpected. He showed up at my sister's place with a heartfelt apology and a plan. He'd arranged for us to go to couples therapy. He wanted to fix things, to earn back my trust. He admitted that he'd been taking me for granted and that he'd been selfish. It was a side of him I hadn't seen before, and it made me remember all the good times we'd had. We started therapy, and it was rough at first. We dug into issues I didn't even know we had, but it also felt like we were finally communicating. For the first time in a long time, I felt heard. He listened to me, really listened, and he started to understand how his actions, even the little things like interrupting me, had affected me. It's been 2 weeks since I found those letters, and it's been interesting to say the least. But I've made a decision. I'm going to give my marriage another shot. I can't forget what he did, but I believe people can change. And I've seen that change in him. We're still going to therapy, and it's helping. We're rebuilding that trust slowly. I've also started to focus on myself again. I'm taking a painting class, something I've always wanted to do. It's helping me find that part of myself I thought I'd lost. My sister found a new job, and she's doing great. She's been my support through all of this, and I'm so grateful for her. So that's where I'm at. It's not perfect, but it's real life. We're working on our marriage, and I'm working on myself. It's going to be a long road, but I'm hopeful for the first time in a long time. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.